Ruidoso and Cloudcroft are two small mountain towns in the middle of southern New Mexico. They are only an hour's drive apart. They have so many things in common that I thought it best to describe them in a single video. When possible, I'll highlight some of the differences between Ruidoso and Cloudcroft. The closest somewhat larger town to Ruidoso and Cloudcroft is Alamogordo, New Mexico, which is home to Holloman Air Force Base. Alamogordo has a population of just over 30,000. I've described it in some detail in a different video for prospective retirees. Alamogordo has all of the conveniences you would expect for a town with 30,000 residents. Cloudcroft has a population of only about 700 permanent residents. These residents often drive about a half hour to Alamogordo for shopping and other services. If they drive another hour south, Cloudcroft's residents can arrive in Las Cruces, which is New Mexico's second largest city, with a population of about 100,000. A little less than a 2 hours drive south of Cloudcroft is El Paso, Texas. The El Paso metro area has a little under 1 million residents and sits right on the border with Mexico. So just across the border from El Paso are Mexican pharmacies that would appeal to many retirees, Mexican shopping, and a large airport in Ciudad Juarez. As I've mentioned in previous videos, traveling to well-known Mexican vacation destinations can be less expensive when departing out of Ciudad Juarez rather than El Paso. Albuquerque, New Mexico is New Mexico's largest city and is about a 3.5-hour drive north of Cloudcroft. Like El Paso, the Albuquerque metro area also has a little under 1 million residents. Turning our attention to Ruidoso, we can see that Ruidoso is a little bit farther north than Cloudcroft. It also has a much larger population than Cloudcroft, but is still a fairly small town with just under 8,000 permanent residents. Ruidoso means noisy, but the town gets its name from the Ruidoso River, not the behavior of its citizens or visitors. Because of its location, Ruidoso is a little closer than Cloudcroft to Albuquerque, but this means it's also farther from the towns and cities to the south like Alamogordo, Las Cruces, and El Paso. From Ruidoso, Albuquerque is a little less than a 3-hour drive, Alamogordo is about a 1-hour drive, Las Cruces is about a 2-hour drive, and El Paso is about a 2.5-hour drive. Because Cloudcroft and Ruidoso have so much in common, a prospective resident might want to evaluate how important it is to be closer to the cities to the south, like Alamogordo, Las Cruces, and El Paso. Cloudcroft is a much smaller town than Ruidoso, but has the advantage of being closer to Alamogordo and the bigger southern cities. Ruidoso and Cloudcroft's proximity drives many of their similarities. As you can see here, they are located on either side of the Mescalero Apache Reservation and surrounded by the Lincoln National Forest. That green section on the map is mountainous, so both towns are about 7,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level. Both towns are skiing destinations in the winter and attract tourists. Both are considered summer retreats from much hotter places at lower elevations. Both have abundant hiking and mountain biking trails nearby, and both continue to have a low cost of living. According to bestplaces.net, Cloudcroft's cost of living is 15% lower than the average cost of living for the U.S. as a whole. Ruidoso is similarly inexpensive, although Ruidoso's median home cost is somewhat higher. Ruidoso's very slightly higher cost of living makes sense given that Ruidoso has about 11 times the population of Cloudcroft. But the overall picture is clear. These two mountain towns and the New Mexican towns that are near them can be very affordable places to live. I should mention that neither Cloudcroft nor Ruidoso has high crime, as you might expect given their size, but Ruidoso has more crime than Cloudcroft due to its larger population. Given how hot most parts of New Mexico are in the summer, Cloudcroft and Ruidoso distinguish themselves as places to escape summer heat. According to bestplaces.net, Cloudcroft is the higher of the two towns with an elevation over 8,000 feet. Cloudcroft was named by a railroad crew that viewed the spot as a pasture in the clouds that would inevitably draw tourists. Cloudcroft's elevation accounts for its lower temperatures. Both Cloudcroft and Ruidoso remain far cooler in the summer than towns at lower elevations like Alamogordo. Alamogordo's average high temperature in July is 94 degrees, so just imagine how it feels to residents of Cloudcroft who visit Alamogordo for some quick shopping in late summer. After just a half-hour drive, they may experience a temperature increase of over 20 degrees. Also, because Cloudcroft and Ruidoso are near the southern edge of the U.S., their winters are quite mild. They get plenty of snow and cold temperatures, but as you can see here, bitterly cold temperatures are very rare in this part of New Mexico. And on colder days, residents of Cloudcroft and Ruidoso don't have to drive very far to warm up. Lower elevation towns nearby have average highs in the upper 50s in January. Cloudcroft and Ruidoso are both surrounded by many popular trails. There are mountain biking trails as well as many hiking trails throughout this part of New Mexico. Within 15 minutes of Cloudcroft, there is one lake, Silver Lake. But several more mountain lakes are accessible within a half-hour drive. Ruidoso appears to have more nearby lakes than Cloudcroft, including Alto Lake, which is just a 6-minute drive outside of the center of Ruidoso. Remember, however, that Cloudcroft and Ruidoso rarely get hot in the summer. There is a golf course at the lodge in Cloudcroft, and at least 4 golf courses in Ruidoso, with a few more nearby in Alto. So this is clearly a great part of New Mexico for people who enjoy golfing. Cloudcroft is home to the Sacramento Mountains Museum and is about a half-hour drive from the Sunspot Astronomy and Visitor Center. Cloudcroft is a similar distance from at least 5 museums in Alamogordo. This fact reminds us that Cloudcroft's small size is somewhat compensated for by its proximity to Alamogordo. All the conveniences of a town of 30,000 people are roughly a half-hour drive from Cloudcroft. The Ruidoso area is home to the Ruidoso River Museum, the Hubbard Museum of the American West, the Billy the Kid Scenic Byway Visitor Center, and several art galleries. The Ruidoso area is home to several casinos, whereas Cloudcroft has no casinos. Ruidoso Downs has one of the casinos in the Ruidoso area and also a well-known horse racing track. Because Ruidoso's population is larger than Cloudcroft's, Ruidoso's residents don't need to leave town for shopping as much as Cloudcroft's residents do. Ruidoso has a Walmart supercenter and several major grocery stores. For the same conveniences, residents of Cloudcroft have to drive to Alamogordo. Cloudcroft and Ruidoso are both known for their ski resorts, so I thought it would be helpful to compare those. An instructive discussion about the differences between these ski resorts appears over at citydata.com. Here are a few quotes from that discussion. For me, the key takeaway is that Ski Cloudcroft is substantially smaller than the Ruidoso resort, which is called Ski Apache. That doesn't mean Ski Cloudcroft is necessarily worse. Some people think Ski Cloudcroft is better for little kids. Cloudcroft is apparently less expensive. Moreover, Ski Apache, and perhaps Ruidoso as a whole during ski season, may feel a little more crowded than some people would like. Moving to Ruidoso, and especially Cloudcroft, is a commitment to living in a small town. Some people are looking for small town living and aren't worried about finding satisfactory housing or having to drive to fulfill some needs. But for those watching who are a little uneasy about just how small these towns are, let me mention a few things. You've already heard that Cloudcroft is only about a half-hour drive from Alamogordo, which has 30,000 residents. For someone who wants to be in this general area and enjoy the cool mountain climate, it may be worth considering either Cloudcroft or Alamogordo. They're close enough together that some Cloudcroft enthusiasts might just want to live in Alamogordo instead. There would certainly be more housing choices in Alamogordo than in Cloudcroft. I guess the question becomes, what's more important to have at your doorstep, the mountains or the conveniences of a bigger town? Ruidoso, in contrast, has all the advantages of being in a town with a population of about 8,000. Residents don't have to leave town just to go to Walmart, for example, or to try more than one grocery store. But a town of 8,000 can still be quite limiting, and New Mexico's largest cities are all quite distant from Ruidoso. There is one somewhat nearby city I haven't mentioned yet, Roswell. Roswell, New Mexico has a population of about 48,000 and is a 1 hour and 15-minute drive from Ruidoso. Alamogordo would still be a bit closer to Ruidoso, but Alamogordo's population is about 20% smaller than Roswell's. So if drives of an hour or so aren't too much of a nuisance, residents of Ruidoso can reach towns like Alamogordo and Roswell without too much trouble. Did you enjoy this video? I hope you'll let us know by liking and subscribing. And if you're considering moving to this part of New Mexico, I hope you'll share your thoughts in the comments.